go ahead and get the ball rolling here. Today we have Brian Roland with us. Brian is a social entrepreneur and founder of Abenity. It's a company that powers corporate perks for top brands, including US Bank and MasterCard. And while Abenity provides millions of subscribers with private discounts, the company's social mission is fighting extreme poverty with every program that they deliver. Abenity recently exceeded $1 million in total giving and hired a CEO to accelerate growth in their fully remote environment. For the past 6 weeks or so, us at Petra, we've been in a webinar series around adjusting to the new workforce and what that may look like for your team. And in today's final session, Brian is going to talk about how he led his team to become a 6-time Inc. 5000 company and have such a large social impact while being a fully distributed workforce. He'll unpack his rules of engagement for communicating with a fully or increasingly distributed workforce and introduce the impact plan, which is his one-page guide to help your brand create an impact with a social mission of your own. We also have special guest Kristen McLean online with us from the Vivid Ink Company. Kristen and her team there transform the spoken word into lasting and actionable works of art. So in your recap, you'll all have a really beautiful and unique drawing that kind of represents today's webinar as well. One last reminder is that this is an interactive session. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see Q&A and chat box. We encourage you to use both of those anytime you have a question or comment for Brian. Without further ado, Brian, go ahead and take it away.
Well, thank you. This is a lot of fun to be with you guys for lots of reasons. It's kind of a full circle moment for me. Andy Bailey, Petra Coach founder, took a chance on me when I was a musician straight out of Belmont University, and really was one of the best business coaches I've ever had. I've learned so much from him that I include in a lot of everyday life and to this day. And the Petra Coach team has been really fun to watch evolve since those early days. And so I wanted to start just kind of with Abenity and what we do. And we help companies save. We help companies get discounts on everything from pizza and the zoo to movie tickets, oil changes, car rentals, and hotels. And these companies use these discounts as a way to stretch the employee's paycheck to help them earn more. They're privately negotiated discounts that are based on a variety of contracts that we put together over the years. And we provide those discounts to large companies like US Bank and MasterCard, to small businesses with under 150 employees for just $150 a month. This is something we've been doing for 13 years now. And through the years, we've continued to grow, and we've done the whole thing with a fully remote team, and that's been a challenge and a really cool experience. From day one, my brother was in California and I was in Nashville, and as we are getting to know the business needs, we're really understanding that this remote relationship works well. It's really started in my cell phone days when I was working with the NationLink team, which many of you are probably very familiar with. And it was a B2B operation. It was go talk to businesses about their business lines of service. And I was not comfortable talking to folks about business phones. It wasn't my strength. I was 23, a music business guy, and talking to a CFO was something that was really intimidating to me. So my first month on the job, my goal is to sell 30 phones. I mean, that's one a day, and you can get 30 phones really quick with a single business. So you have all month to find one business. But when you're not talking to businesses, you need one a day. And so I went back to the university and I said, hey, look, can I tell the parents coming in about how to get a cell phone here in Nashville for their students, for their kids? And I got a yes. So stood up in front of the parents coming in. I said, hey, look, you need a phone for your kids that works here. This is before nationwide long distance was a thing. And so having a phone based out of where they were was still important. And so that method worked, and I got index cards, and I spent the rest of the month calling the parents back. And from there, I sold enough phones to have a good month. And then we had this board we'd do X's on. And at the end of the month, we wipe it clean, and it's like, all right, go do it again. And it's like, all the parents went home. What do I do next? And so I learned that companies have a cell phone discount for their employees. And so I started helping these companies tell their employees about cell phone discounts. And that became a plan that really worked well. And we built an awesome team that I was really proud of. And they did a fantastic job over the years. And we called that cell phone focus the employee value program. And it was a really neat operation. There was a day when one of the large companies we served published the wrong information about their cell phones. And that became a problem because their internet folks couldn't pull, they didn't feel it was a priority to pull it down. Sprint Corporate was not happy about it. Our customers were complaining. The HR group at the company we were working with wasn't happy, and IT was like, we got bigger priorities than pulling down this flyer that's wrong. And so, and from that point, I realized that there's really a greater need, an opportunity in the HR space for someone to build a platform that manages all of the merchant relationships. And again, everything from pizza in the zoo to movie tickets, oil changes, car rentals, hotels, all these are under this umbrella of employee perks. And so the cell phone discounts was the one merchant that I was offering. And I remember having a conversation with Andy about this, and like the awesome entrepreneur that he is, he said, we need to keep the main thing, like stay focused, stay in our lane. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to see if Mark and I might try this on the side and see what happens. And a short time after that, we felt like it was a good fit for us to branch out. And I took the entrepreneurial leap of my own, and with my wife's teacher's salary, moved on from NationLink into this new endeavor that we're still doing today. Now, we launched, just me and my brother, and fully remote. And when it came time for our third employee, we were really focused on very tactical, how do we make this work? And so our third employee was somebody we knew, somebody we already trusted, somebody that was moving to another state and wasn't local. And we were kind of like, well, hey, this remote thing is working for me and my brother in California. Why don't we just throw on a third person who's remote? And then when it came for time for a fourth person, it was the same thing. It's like, we know this person. They're really great. They're really a great fit for us. One thing that Andy taught me was can do, will do, and team fit. And those three things in the hiring process just really stick still. And so we really focused on the person and not the location. And by the time we're collecting 4 or 5 remote employees, and this is probably the year 2010 now, so 11 years ago, we were really starting to realize, how difficult an endeavor it is to build relationships with people and be tactical about those relationships, as we're all separate but kind of working on the same thing. And that got us moving into this direction of building a fully remote team. And this is right at 2010. Video kind of exists with Google Hangouts, but it's not very reliable. It's not very user friendly. I remember sometimes the first 30 minutes of all video meeting back then was just technology issues, like getting everybody's stuff to work, and just that feeling of frustration with the amount of time that we were losing with that video technology that was had great vision but poor execution. And so we pressed on, and we continued building remote teams. So in a little while, I want to talk about building a fully remote team and the rules of engagement that we put together that make that really successful. Setting the remote team aside for a second, going back to the kind of catalyst moment of our business, we started our business, Abenity, with a social mission. We wanted our why to go deeper than what we were already doing. We knew that our brand was going to fail us. We knew that one day our products and services would fail us, that our customers wouldn't always be happy with us, that a competitor would get aggressive with us. And if our why was inside our organization, those attacks would be enough to really get us down, demotivate us, possibly get us to throw in the towel and just be done and say, this is too much. And so I wanted our why to be outside of all of those things. And so at the time, I was newly married, and I was talking to my brother and my wife, and I was just like, what can we pursue that is really worth it? And the biggest thing I could think of at the time was extreme poverty. It's like, let's fight for extreme poverty. And extreme poverty is something that most people we don't see it face to face here in the United States, and most people haven't given it a lot of thought. But extreme poverty is the United Nations #1 sustainability goal to end by the year 2030. And when I say extreme poverty, there are 500 million people living in extreme poverty today. And you're in extreme poverty if you're unable to go to school, because your kids or your family is still seeking out fresh water and food for the day. And look, a lot of times these communities in extreme poverty are walking 5 miles for water. That's dirty water, and it's leading to disease in the community, but it's the best thing they have. And so you see all these organizations popping up and focusing on clean water, and it's because clean water is the first problem that you can solve. And when you solve access to clean water for people, a lot of other things start coming together. So if you're sending kids off to find water for the family, that's an indication that you're in a community with extreme poverty. And I asked somebody else that's in the field, what's the best way to describe this? And he said really the best way to describe it is if you're deciding which of your kids you can feed today. The family's not getting a meal every single day. And so my wife said, hey, there's this organization called World Vision, and they have a community sponsorship program. They really focus on their kids. Their goal is to get the kids education, clean water, healthcare, just make sure these primary needs are met within their families that they live in. They're not necessarily orphans. They're just families living in the developing world. And so we started early on with a formula that gives that has an output of a financial output towards extreme poverty for every financial input into the business. And we set this on day one. And as of this year, we've exceeded 1.2 million in direct giving through our initiatives, which has been really fulfilling to pass over that $1 million of direct giving mark. And through that, we're sponsoring about 250 kids a month through World Vision. And it's become a really core initiative within our team, and a really big component of our culture as well. And with a fully remote team and this social mission, there's this beautiful relationship of this mission-driven team that happens that really bridges that gap between where the remote team is and what we're fighting for as an organization. And that's really brought us all together in a way that's very difficult to replicate. And so outside of my rules of engagement for remote teams, I've put together a one-page impact plan because I believe that every business has the opportunity to create impact outside of their products and services. And there's been some beautiful things that has unlocked for our business that has accelerated our growth. And so we'll talk about the impact plan in a little while as well. And that will be a neat part of our discussion today. Now, Abenity today is continuing to thrive and do well. We've made it on the Inc. 5000 list for 6 consecutive years. It's been a fantastic journey, and we have a lot to be proud of. I stepped down as CEO of Abenity almost 2 years ago now, because it hit this really unique moment of realization that I'm no longer the chief leader that our business needs. Essentially, my entrepreneurial approach to running the business was outgrown by the organization. And one of the hardest lessons I think I've learned so far as an entrepreneur is that if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, then your baby is likely going to outgrow you and branch off on its own. And look, this is life. I have a 20-year-old daughter that we adopted from Ukraine a number of years ago, and we adopted her when she's 12. And I mean, those 8 years just flew by, and she's branching out and moving on her own. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old daughter as well. And just the thought of if I do this job as their dad successfully, then I'm letting go of them and letting them do great things without me directly. And we've bootstrapped Abenity this whole way to where we are today. And so that is that puts you in a position where there's not enough cash for a Jeff Bezos to say sitting at the top of the pyramid while you're building out this deep bench of executive leaders, allowing room for an entrepreneurial visionary type to sit at the top of the pyramid. That's just not reality for a lot of businesses. And so for the team to have the direction they need and the leadership they need, it was time for me to step down. And so today, in the founder and chairman role at Abenity, and I'm really spending my time debriefing what's worked for us over the last 10 years, what's gotten us to where we are today. And ultimately, that's why I'm here with you all today. And I'm excited to be here. So before I dive into the impact plan, my rules of engagement, and we get to kind of final Q&A, I thought it might be a good time to pause. And Leah, if you're with me and you want to take a second to see if we have any early questions we can pull out, now would be a great time to do that. And
the only question I saw, which I'm sure you're going to touch on, is just how applying the the social impact to your own organization. Like, how does your own organization discover their social impact?
Yep, absolutely. Yes, we'll for sure dive into that as we're discussing the impact plan. And there's a spot you can download the impact plan, personalize it for your own company, and really start working out on paper. What does this look like for us? It's different. It's going to be different for everybody based on what they want to do. Great. Well, I'm going to go ahead, if nobody else is throwing questions out there, I'm going to go ahead and share. And first, let's talk through my rules of engagement for fully remote teams. Listen, there is a unique relationship between the impact plan and the fully remote team. This is being mission minded over here. And this is kind of the tactical environment where you are. And so, I want to lay some groundwork kind of for the fully remote worker, first of all. One of the biggest to-dos, one of the biggest, I guess not to-dos, one of the biggest mindsets that you need for your fully remote team is that they are not in your office. They are working likely in their own environment. That means you as their employer and their boss have no jurisdiction over their territory, right? They're not clocking into your office space. They're not rubbing shoulders with your managers and the rest of your team. They have very little accountability. And so your approach to them as their employer has to be very different than if they were inside the office space that you own, that you're renting, that you're leasing. You have a lot more say over them. And so the first mindset really needs to be is they're operating in their own space. It's their own jurisdiction. You're a contributing player, and they're working for you, but they're outside of your physical space. And so that means you can't manage the physical space, which means you have to have a lot of trust and respect for your employees. And if you don't have that level of trust and respect for the people you're working with, well, then that's your first problem to go out there and solve, because you need to be able to trust and respect your people. The next mindset change that you need to have is it's really important to measure your employees' output and not their activity. Listen, when they're showing up to the office and it's like, hey, we start work at 8 o'clock. So I need you in the door at 8 o'clock you're measuring activity. You need to be sitting in that chair from 8 to 5. I don't care what you do, just sit in the chair from 8 to 5. Listen, that is the mentality of a lot of big companies. It's insane. And so you're measuring activity and not output. And so when somebody's in their own space and you don't have jurisdiction over where they physically are, you need to measure output over activity. That means you have to have a really strong grasp on your KPIs and what they're doing. The other mindset that you need to have for a remote worker is you need to go into the relationship with this thought that's really sounds insane when you say it out loud, but you need to be able to go in and say, hey, look, I just want you to know, and for you to be a successful employee for my company, I need you to prioritize your personal life over your work life. Is that going to be a problem for you? And the person's going to look back at you and say, I'm sorry, did you just say prioritize my personal life over my work life? And I was like, yeah, that's what I said. It's like, okay, well, that sounds great, but nobody's ever offered that to me before. Like, what's the catch? It's like, look, if you're not prioritizing your personal life well, if you're not picking up your kids at the bus stop when they need to be picked up, if you're not taking care of your health and staying in good shape, if you're not taking typical breaks for lunch and these sort of things, then you're not going to be healthy at home. And if you're not healthy at home, you're not going to be effective for me at work. So in order for you to be effective at work and to accomplish what we hired you to do, the outputs that we hired you to do, you need to be good at prioritizing your personal life over your work life. That means I don't want you frantic and scattered and running around. I realize there are things that will come up that are unpredictable. That happens in either scenario, but prioritizing your personal life is something you really need to figure out how to do well. And this is a mentality that will take you very, very far with your fully remote team. Third mindset is for a remote team to grow culturally, you really need to be mission driven. People really need to understand their mission, vision, and values. They they need to know why they're pursuing what they're pursuing. And we'll get into this with the impact plan here in a little bit. My biggest concern with what the pandemic caused in 2020 is it forced everybody into adopting a work-life balance that included predominantly working from home, remote work for many companies, almost all companies. And so the challenge with this is that I guess I'll say the positive is a lot of people realize like, hey, this works, this can work. We can trust people to get stuff done. We can still be secure in remote environments. Wow, we can save a lot of money by allowing people to work from home. The challenge is they really received a false positive on the culture front. Everyone in 2020 and 2021 who's been working remote and that hasn't been doing it before has had a false positive for the cultural side of this, because they have been mission driven. They've not been fighting for something, they've been fighting against something. This invisible enemy that we've all had to deal with for so long now has been something that pulled and rallied these teams together and allowed them to thrive in remote environments. And so everyone has had this commonality, this common cause, this mission driven. We're going to make this, we're going to work through this, we're going to get it done, even in our weird remote routines that we're having to establish. And as we move into 2022 and beyond, and the threats of this pandemic dissipate, and our desire to stay remote maybe even increases, we need to remember that that cultural bridge that has been there, that's given everybody something to fight for, is receding. And when it's gone, you're going to have a bunch of remote workers on islands that you need to pull into a common cause. And that's where, again, this impact plan comes in really handy. So before I jump to the impact plan, let's go through my rules of engagements for remote teams. And this is building healthy communication with remote teams. I wrote an article about this on brianroland.com that you're welcome to check out. And it's called Stop Sending Internal Emails. And this is the big secret for communicating with fully distributed teams. I think it applies in a lot of ways with all kinds of teams, but specifically remote teams. If you're sending emails to your employees, then you are just creating confusion. Email is like no man's land for what to do with it. If you send a task, I need you to do this, and you email it to somebody, it's likely to get buried and lost quickly. It can be really hard to dig up later and all those things. So stop sending internal emails. We haven't sent an internal email in a decade, and it works great for us. So no internal. Reserve email for external communications with suppliers or customers or that sort of thing. Even your suppliers and customers, it's great to move them into some kind of CRM or help desk instead of email. So email has very little use anymore, especially in creating an effective communication strategy. So that's number one. And for internal communication here, column 1, no emails. Sure, it's good for external communication. Chat. All right, we use Slack. We've been a fan of Slack for many years now. And Slack is essentially your office environment. It's kind of your water cooler. You need to have room on your chat for your fully remote team for silly stuff, for random stuff. It's good for them. We have Terrible Joke Tuesday. We've got a random channel. We've got a core values channel. So if anybody recognizes somebody meeting one of our core values, they get a shout out on that channel. And we've got an all team kind of public service announcements channel for things that kind of hit everybody. We have just around 30 people that are working with us in our fully remote environment. So reserve chat for those things. When it comes to getting stuff done, you want to use a task manager and assign something to get done as a task. Now, if you have a question about that task, use your chat. Reach out to the person, quick question, chat, right? That works great. If you're not, if it's too much for a chat, resist that urge to send an email and pick up the phone and give them a call. The phone is still a fantastic vehicle of communication. It's highly effective. Do not jump on a video call right away. I'm not one for a lot of video. Video is a very difficult, it's a very exhausting medium. While you're talking on video, the whole time your brain is working behind the scenes, reconciling things that don't make sense. Like I can see your body language, but I can't see your full body. I can't get the full context of where you're sitting or what you're doing. And so really reserve video for team calls. And so for those deeper conversations, if multiple people are involved, okay, jump to video, right? Because video is better for multiple people than a blind conference call. But otherwise, just pick up the phone, ask your quick question. Audio and video conferencing is great for internal and external communications with kind of those parameters. If you can get your customers as you're reaching out and doing sales outreach and stuff, if you can get them on video, that's great. That builds the relationship much stronger than you would otherwise. And look, before 2020, nobody externally would have turned on their video camera for you if they didn't already know you. And here we are with that kind of being the norm. And if you leave your camera off, it's kind of like, why they leave their camera off? The phone we talked about just a minute ago, but again, the phone is a great way. And look, in your fully remote environment or wherever you are, when you do a phone call, like get up and walk, like take a walk somewhere, use your energy and walk around. And it's a good way to stay moving throughout the day. Text messaging, look, there's no role for text messaging at all in internal or external communications. I have learned this the hard way, especially as a sales guy. Like I want to text with customers. It's so efficient. Look, if you must text, get yourself a second office phone that you can leave in the office and you don't take with you out of your office hours, because it will ruin your work-life balance. It's great when you're building a relationship and you're working to close a deal or stay in community with people, to have these quick kind of text messages. But when somebody turns on you and they need something from you when you're not available, or if they're not happy with you, well, they have access to you 24/7 that way. It requires a tremendous amount of discipline not to react. And so just no text messages at all, internally or externally. Reserve it for the biggest kind of emergency, and funnel everything else through one of the other channels. So instead of a text, use your corporate kind of Slack channel. Look, in the old days, if you needed something right away, you would get up and walk down the hall and see them face to face. And if it was on a night or weekend when you couldn't reach them, you'd have to wait. And so it's okay to wait. It's healthy. Again, if it's an emergency, text messages are okay. And again, if it's a key component of your role and it's highly effective at closing deals, just get a second cell phone. Like get a second phone that you leave in the office and you keep it with you when you want to be available. But you need to be able to be unavailable without turning off your whole life, right? And if you want to close the garage door from your app because your family's like going out on a bike ride or something, you don't want some work message popping in and messing with your head the whole time. Trust me, it's been my life for 10 years and it's a hard thing to kick, and I'm working on it. A task manager, a project management system is key. This really needs to be what handles all of your workflow. These we use Asana, ASANA, and it is a beautiful platform. It's highly effective at over communicating who's responsible for doing what, breaking tasks into subtasks, creating need to know followers, and getting things done and managing files and transferring files and all those sorts of things.
Hey, Brian, I just had a question pop up.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
About texting. So this is an interesting one. It says that texting is a no-go, is what you said. But then it says text questions to Brian in the footer.
No, isn't that funny? I buffer this at the end. They're ahead. So I am using a social platform. So that's a perfect transition. Social media is the next one to talk about. And so internally, you don't want people, you don't want people communicating internally through social media. And when they're remote, this could happen. Like people spend a lot of time on Facebook, coworkers or friends on Facebook, they could end up using Facebook Messenger to be communicating about work. Like you don't want that happening in your work environment. You have no record of those communications. You can't track it down. It's like, it's a rogue communication, right? All right, so for external communications, social media, we obviously know is awesome. Like it's a great way to build relationships, to grow your platform, to share, to get your name out there, and that sort of thing. Now, me, I have found for me that keeping up with Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and all these things is very difficult. It's easy to get lost. There's so many, the algorithms make it harder for me to even know who I'm seeing and what I'm seeing. The advertisements are growing every day. And so I don't spend a lot of time personally, even externally. So personally on social media, what I have found is that it is a fantastic way to communicate with people. And so there is a social platform called community.com. And I feel like there's an increasing wave of external people who are communicating, who prefer texting. Obviously, this is why under the no texting, it's like get a second phone if you need to. And so I actually have a second phone, and Community is a texting platform. And so it allows me to send one text message out to many people. It allows me to give you all a phone number that says, hey, text the word impact to this phone number and get a one-page PDF. And so my text message number that you're seeing down there is my community number. That is a social platform that is really for responding. And I do buffer that a lot because it is funny that I'm preaching so hard. So there's two sides of this. Internally, texting, creating a healthy balance for yourself with texting. Now, externally, building relationships with others. Texting is a great vehicle for doing that, but it should be managed with a second phone or a social platform like Community, which is what I'm doing and how I'm learning to make it work. Does that help?
No questions right now, so I'm thinking. So.
It's a great question. And look, I'm on the same journey of figuring out how to make all these important things, keep the ones important that are important, and at the same time maintain a healthy kind of work-life balance for myself. Great question, great observation. So with that in mind, if you would like to get the rules of engagement for yourself, go ahead and text the word rules to my text phone number. That's a social platform and not my real phone number, but it's automated and I can reach you there when I'm in my social responding mode. and we can interact that way. Area code is 615-802-6853. Just text the word rules and you will get the PDF that we just looked at back right away.
Also, Brian, if you shoot
text.
that over to me, I'll include it in the recap that goes out to everybody, so they'll have full accessibility to that.
Perfect. All right. Let's move on to the impact plan. I'm going to share my screen again for the impact plan here, and we'll take it away. All right. The impact plan. So on back to day one, as we were communicating, can you guys see the impact plan okay?
Yep, you are good to go.
Great. So as I'm branching out into kind of launching Abenity, again, we're really looking for an output to a cause for every input into the business. And as I look back at what got us over this $1 million of giving over the last 10 years, and it takes time and consistency. I'm not saying that we gave this right away. I'm not saying it's the biggest number. I was looking at an article on kind of social impact, and during the pandemic, Lowe's gave like $250 million towards something for a quarter. It's like numbers are always going to be in the perspective of something else. And so $1 million is not that much money. And at the same time, it's a lot of money. And so it's not about the amount. It's about how you're going about it all. And so I want to pull up here one of my articles on the impact plan and talk through kind of the unexpected perks of a social mission right away. So we created this formula that we said, hey, for every this, we're going to do this. This is, this Blake Makovsky from Tom's Shoes made this really famous. Buy a pair, give a pair. They're doing a percentage-based giving model now, as opposed to that, because they can make a bigger impact with a percentage based of what they're doing. The first thing I wanted to point out was creating this impact plan created the most unexpected result for us. It gave us a competitive advantage. I never expected that. And look, from the year 2009 to 2014, we kept our giving private. We didn't tell anybody. It was kind of like, no, this is just what we're doing. It's for ourselves. We're not doing it. It's not a marketing gimmick. We don't want to make a big deal out of it. But as we started sharing it internally with our team was like, can we tell other people? We think it's important. And so finally in 2014, we just said, okay, well, let's just publish our social mission and just make it public and do what we say we're going to do. And so what we found from that was that by putting it as the last 10 seconds in our videos, putting it as the last couple slides in our sales presentations, communicating it annually out to our customers, and putting together an impact report that we publish on our website, it was actually giving us a competitive edge. When people were comparing our services, apples to apples to our competitors, it's something that helped us stand out. And people like to do business with people they like and brands they trust, and it helped build trust for our brand. And so that is a big reason why the impact plan is something that I'm really encouraging companies to do, because they will find an ROI on it. Second, it created meaningful teamwork for our people. So in our recruiting process, all the way through kind of our legacy folks, it continues to provide meaningfulness for the work that they're doing. And that's been made a tremendous impact for each individual. And when each individual aligns around the same kind of core purpose, it's creating cultural alignment. cultural alignment is very, very, very difficult for any organization to do, to attain, and it's even more difficult for remote teams that don't have geography in common. Sometimes don't have time zones in common, don't have language in common in a lot of cases. And once you have cultural alignment, you kind of hit this point of shared purpose. And when you have everybody running after the same goal with shared purpose and commitment, you're really unlocking something beautiful and creating momentum that is unstoppable for your organization. We underscore this shared purpose with purpose-driven metrics, which are basically KPIs that are driven by our mission and not our revenue. And a good example of that is we're sponsoring a child with World Vision for every new customer that we get. And so instead of counting new customers and setting customer goals, we set child sponsorship goals, and we count the number of kids we're sponsoring. And so that gives all of us something important to keep our focus on, that at the same time accomplishes the business objective. We celebrate Cash Positive Day. And so that our business is on accrual accounting, but for the most part, our business is able to operate high level on a cash basis. So the day that we have more cash come in for the month than goes out, we celebrate that as a Cash Positive Day. And so that is another way that we celebrate Cash Positive Day, with a donation to World Vision from kind of that our giving fund that we're establishing every month through our giving plan. Year-end gifts, one thing I love about World Vision, they have a catalog where local artisans in the countries they support create all kinds of things, handcrafted bowls and jewelry. And so we send out about 15 options that each of our clients can choose from at the end of the year. And World Vision, we buy it for them, and World Vision mails them this memento that represents our mission and supports that local artisan wherever they are. And number 6 is community. And really, this is the holy grail of any cultural environment, is if you can build community. The one thing, community for us has expanded beyond just our internal team to our suppliers, to our customers. And for us, it's become a beautiful relationship where everyone's included in our social mission, and we love digging into that more. And so brianroland.com, you can read the full article here, The Unexpected Perks of a Social Mission. Back to the impact plan. This really is just a 5-step outline for how to create an impact plan of your own. For us, we decided to give 15% of our net profits straight away to fight against extreme poverty. And really that has grown and expanded over the years. There was a point where we said, hey, look, we want to sponsor a child with every account on top of the 15%, and the child sponsorships baked in. 15% is on top. The math all works for us in a really beautiful way. We've bootstrapped. My brother and I own 100% of the business. We don't have outside influences for investors or partners or that sort of thing. You need complete alignment across all the parties involved in your that have a stake in your finances to put this together. But that is very achievable, and this plan addresses that. And so up here, we want to say, hey, we're giving dollars, we're giving X dollars for every X that happens. So X dollars for gross revenue, or X dollars for net profits, hours worked, or products or services sold. Like, you decide. It's very flexible. If you'd rather not do a flat dollar amount given, I'll make it a percentage. Both of those scale beautifully. One thing I want to touch on, I know so many entrepreneurs that are so generous. They're so generous. They are social entrepreneurs. They're only not social entrepreneurs by name because every year they give towards something different, and that's totally fine. It's a great thing. However, what I try to tell them is like, hey, when you pick something you're going to give towards and you focus your giving on one thing, well, then it becomes predictable. And if it's predictable, then you can build a story around it. And if you can build a story around it, you can share it with others. And if you can share it with others, then you can start maximizing your impact with the way that you're pulling in all these other entities. And so focusing your giving through an impact plan is kind of the big idea. It gives you a story to tell and something to share that actually builds momentum for your cause, maximizes your impact, and has the potential to grow your business by becoming a competitive advantage just by helping you stand out in your market. Work hours, you don't have to give money. You can give time. Like you have a lot of hands in your organization, and if you're willing to give up hours for them to go out and serve and do a specific thing, that creates impact. That's just as important. It doesn't have to be a financial thing. And then the Tom Shoes thing we talked about is products. So, they gave a pair in their early years for every pair that was sold. I know a painter, big painter, big painting company, and for every X number of houses they paint one for free and for somebody that needs it. And they can create a mission around that. And so the next thing you need to do is create a mission statement. The mission statement, there's actually a template for this on my brianroland.com website here. And so if you go to the 5 steps to maximize your impact post, then you will you'll get to that template. And I'm seeing we're running out of time here, so I'm going to skip over that. The next thing you want to do is spread the word. So how are you going to promote your mission statement that you've created for your impact plan? This can be, hey, we're just going to, this is going to be something we're going to do as a leadership team. That's it. This is just going to be for us owners. That's it. Gives us meaning and purpose. This is just going to be for our whole company, but we're just going to keep it internal. That's it. That's fine. All of those create impact and maximize your impact. For us, we want everybody to know this is what we're doing and this is why we're growing this business. So you decide how and who you want to promote it to. Accountability, this is key. Who are you going to hold you accountable to sticking with this plan? This is where you can really blow it. You create a plan and then you stop doing it, or you forget to do it, or something, and you lose all trust from everybody right away when that happens. And so you need some folks to hold you accountable to make sure it happens. Your plan can be time bound. So if you're not sure you want to do it forever, make your plan time bound. We're going to do this for a year. We're going to do this for 2 years. We're going to do this for 3 years. But whatever you pick, make sure it's something you can stick to and actually get done. Blockers, I run into this all the time with mature businesses. It's like, well, gosh, I love this idea, but it's really hard to get started because we don't have, all our money is spoken for right now. If you have investors, they're going to be like, no, we need to get our return before you do something like this. If you have a strategic plan, you're like, well, we need to hire these 2 or 3 positions or build this new product or buy this equipment before we can do this. And look, those are just blockers. So define them. So for your investors, say, investors, when we exceed profitability of X, then we want to implement this giving plan on top of that. That allows you to talk about your giving plan right away, your impact plan right away, and then point everybody towards that goal. And once we achieve this, then we start doing this. Same thing once we hire these people, once we buy these machines. And again, we'll send out the 1-page impact plan as well. And with a couple minutes left, I think I'll turn it back over and see if we have any floating questions. And I've enjoyed my time talking with you all today.
All right, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat. I know that was a lot of information in a short amount of time. I want to thank you guys for attending. You'll receive a recap within the next 24 hours. I'll make sure these 2 worksheets are included as well as a recording, so you can rewatch it or share it with your team. Be sure to check out petracoach.com and click on our events tab to see all of our upcoming workshops and webinars. You can also view our previous ones. And as always, if you have any further questions or we can provide any help for your organization, reach out to us at info@petracoach.com. Brian, thanks so much for being with us today. Everyone have a great day.
Thanks.